Hey guys, this is Mrs. Hopkins. Today we're going to talk about finding missing angles using trigonometry. Okay, so that's our big objective today. So what you're going to be able to do at the end of the lesson is, given a right triangle and two sides of that right triangle, you're going to be able to find the angle that is for that triangle that you're looking for. And the reason why this is important is because, well, I actually did this on my vacation. Me and my husband were going off-roading, and we're looking at this giant wall that we're going to try to climb with his vehicle, okay? And the question what we wanted to figure out was exactly how steep was this hill. And so what we did was we figured out exactly, we estimated the height of the hill, and then we figured out how far we were away with it. And when we did that, we were able to figure out the steepness of this hill and figure out that, yeah, we could actually climb it with his vehicle. Okay? And so that's kind of what the situation that you have here in number 1 here. Well, difference, you have the hypotenuse, but same idea. So the question is, what you're trying to find is that missing angle, that question mark. Notice there's a little curve mark there, which tells us that that's what we're looking for there. It's an angle. The next question you want to ask yourself is, what do you know? Well, you have a 4 and a 6. So the question is, what are those in this right triangle? Well, we know that the 6 is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the 90-degree angle. Then we know that the adjacent and the hypotenuse form the angle itself. So if you kind of pinch the side, you get the 4 and the 6, which means the 4 is adjacent. So this tells me that I have the cosine, because the definition of the cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. So I'm going to write that. That the cosine of this missing angle, I don't know what it is. We know, though, that the cosine will be given by the adjacent side, the 4, and the hypotenuse, which is the 6. So the question is, how do I take this information then to find the angle? Well, think back to what we did yesterday, that we're given the ratio, because every single angle has its own unique ratio for sine, cosine, and tangent. You know the ratio, you can figure out which angle will give it to you. And so what we call this, the name for this process, what we call it, is the inverse cosine. It's cosine that looks like it has an exponent, a -1 there. So what we'll do is we'll take the inverse of both sides to undo that cosine there. Okay? So really what we're asking ourselves is, what angle will get us 4 divided by 6? Now, yesterday we used a table in order to figure this out, but the faster way that we have nowadays, the advantage is with a calculator. So the first thing you want to do is you want to change the fraction into a decimal. So divide 4 and 6. Then, to tell the calculator to find the angle for this ratio, you want to use the second button and then press the trig function that you want. So in our case, second cosine. And that will get you 48.19. Now, that seems like a lot of steps, but that's because I wanted to walk you through the basic concept. So, basically, guys, the key things you want to do first, okay, and this is what I do in my head when I'm solving these, is first label the triangle, okay? We're trying to find the angle, so we're going to put in the parentheses the x. Figure out what the 3 and the 4 are. The 3 is across from the x, that's opposite, and the 4 is next to, so that's adjacent. So ask yourself, which of the 3 ratios is opposite over adjacent? Well, that's called the tangent. And so we know the opposite is 3 and the adjacent is 4. So now we need to get rid of this tangent by doing the inverse of it. So we're going to take the inverse of both sides. And again, remember, all this means is we're asking the calculator to figure out what angle will get us that 3/4. So these two cancel each other out, leaving you just with the x is equal to the inverse tangent of 3/4. So first you want to do is divide 3 and 4 to get 0.75. And then you ask your calculator, you go second tangent. And then that will get you a grand total of, let me get calculator out in a second, 36.869. Well, I don't want to write all these decimals. I'm going to round it to the second decimal place. And then 9 will make the 6 become a 7. And we'll write a little dot above to mean that that is an angle. And that is my answer.